When the internet started to become widely available, the younger generations realized they couldn't always rely on their superiors for help. They weren't the ones who found the technology, all the sites and forums they could find, so natural to use. Parents, teachers, and basically every other kind of adult came to understand how far ahead younger people were in this new world. This played a role in the growing legends and superstitions about modern technology. Using your phone to take a picture of someone will trap their soul, calling a certain number will trap yours, and this website will immediately take you to hell. During this time, in 1986, an author named Aya Nishitani wrote Digital Devil Story, Megami Tensei. Its protagonist used a computer program to summon demons, but this wasn't what framed him as wrong. It was the consequences that came from him using the program the way he chose to. He wanted to write a story where a weak protagonist had to face the sins he committed, where he wouldn't be absolved of them by becoming a god or fighting those who were worse. When Nishitani was asked to make changes by those looking to adapt the novel into this kind of power fantasy, he refused, eventually leading to the creation of Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei. Throughout that first game and the rest of its series and spin offs, you and your allies wield the power of various supernatural entities throughout countless religions, spiritual systems, works of literature, urban legends, and parts of pop culture, which are always called demons. Just like the protagonists, first time players are basically forced into a new world where they hardly recognize any of the demons they fight and recruit. But you don't need to know them. They're all framed identically, because regardless of any demon story, they have their origin in the minds of humanity. A basic English pixie, an Aztec creator god, and the Mothman can all fight alongside one another and yourself. They all have resistances, weaknesses, skills, and they can all be united to create something even stronger. It's the conflict throughout each game that sets their characters apart. The exact situation can vary greatly, especially in the spin offs, but the casts are generally torn between the order of God and his angels, the chaos of Lucifer and his demons, or nothing but the precarity of humans acting on their own. When it's not God or Lucifer, other figures or temptations take their place, like Digital Devil Saga's Karma Society, which harvests humans for the sake of the elite and opposes its own director, who wishes to embrace the anarchy of the virus she made with their own resources. Whatever you choose as the player, at least for the games where you can choose, that'll change the nature of the world or create an entirely new one. The games almost universally combine modern technology, magical thinking, and moral alignments to show that if you want to make a difference, regardless of what you believe, you have to set yourself apart. It's important to be opinionated. You can't be afraid to stand up to others, and especially your friends. And sometimes it's not possible to listen and believe, because the only way you can learn something new is to try it yourself. That's what a lot of children experienced growing up with new technology like the internet, myself included. And, like the protagonist of the first Shin Megami Tensei, it exposed us to countless people and beliefs we never would have thought of. As a human being, you have the responsibility to be curious, to not take everything you've been taught as gospel. That way, even if you're led right back to it, you'll be more confident and aware of why you think the way you do. There's been a common sentiment throughout a lot of fan bases for basically ever about how most stories simply aren't that deep, that if you care about or dislike a story because of its character arcs or symbolism or consistency, you're thinking about it too hard. Shin Megami Tensei can definitely do that to itself to a certain extent. A lot of the games can fall into the enlightened centrist, both extremes are too bad and extreme because they're extreme trappings, for example, and a lot of the fans love to speak in black and white terms despite that being almost entirely antithetical to the games themselves, often even the overtly centrist ones, or they think the games are cool because they want to kill and recruit demons, and that's really it, or they want to date high schoolers. But my first experience with Shin Megami Tensei was in a top 10 video about the greatest plot twists in gaming, where one of the top entries was about Persona 4's Adachi. I assumed it must have been a game about a high school kid working as a detective. I didn't absorb basically anything Adachi actually said or what he stood for, but the aesthetic of the game interested me, and being a kid, the fact that the game seemed adult made it seem cool. So I looked up a playthrough on YouTube and I fell in love. I didn't understand anything about how the game played, but the game's focus on its own characters and shadows forced me to think about my own, at least as well as an elementary schooler could. Sometime later, Shin Megami Tensei 4 came out, and my overly permissive parents got it for my 12-year-old self on day 1. What really struck me was that going with the flow and choosing the typical good person answers led me to getting the law ending, where you have to kill basically everyone who has been even remotely helpful to you to ensure the safety of God's Millennium Kingdom. I didn't realize it at the time, but both of those games taught me how important it is to be intentional with how you live your life. Not just how you act toward or around others, but how you think and feel in your own mind. Taking the path of least resistance, simply doing what's comfortable, not thinking about how things could be different on any level, can only lead to a life that doesn't involve you. I love Shin Megami Tensei because even if the vast majority of my experience playing the games involves me raging at how many times it's taking me to recruit this demon I won't even use in my party, or being confused about lore that's low key just explained badly, I love getting to learn about the different demons and the belief systems and stories that formed them. And I love being forced to think about the decisions I'd make if I were in the character's position. How common it was for the heavens and earth to be separated, the similarities between Orpheus and Izanagi, and the Christian demonization of countless gods would be completely unknown to me if not for Shin Megami Tensei. And while it's natural, way too many people feel attacked when they see their own religions or even just common assumptions put under a magnifying lens. No one likes learning that their beliefs or ideas might be wrong, or at least be made from ignorance. But if we aren't open to being wrong, we risk opening ourselves up to being anything else, of denying parts of ourselves or those we could grow to appreciate just to feel comfortable. I like that Shin Megami Tensei can force these feelings out of people. And I'm not an elitist. I want more people to play and fall in love with the games like I have, but I hope the series continues to be divisive and uncomfortable for people, myself included. The people who feel like their beliefs are being taken away or that they're under attack from any kind of scrutiny or depiction aren't the ones the series was made for. Adachi is not a perfect character, and all things considered, Persona 4 is probably my least favorite Persona game, and I have so many small issues with Shin Megami Tensei 4's gameplay that I don't even like playing it anymore. But when I think about Shin Megami Tensei, I don't think about the occasional centrism or the embarrassing dialogue or sometimes non existent character development. I think about how Persona 5 encourages people to advocate for themselves in a society that often ignores the individual, while Strange Journey warns about the dangers of self interest and hierarchies. How Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance shows that changing your loyalties doesn't always mean changing your value, while Devil Survivor involves a tragedy that can bring even the most different people together, and how Digital Devil Saga asks people to question how much more everybody can learn about themselves and the world itself, while Soul Hackers throws you into a conspiracy that reveals how some differences can't be overcome. I love Shin Megami Tensei, and you should too.